Hello viewers, I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. You're watching 284 Media. Thank you so much for your time. Despite recent statistics showing that dementia prevalence is set to increase across the Caribbean by 155%, that is by 2050, regional progress in tackling the neurodegenerative condition is far too slow, says the Alzheimer's Disease International and the Global Federation for the 104 Alzheimer's and Dementia Associations across the world. Now today I am honored particularly to be joined by two individuals, but before we get to that, only 16% of Caribbean countries and territories have made progress in developing a national dementia plan, and that is a problem, most of which have been inadequate in funding. ADI is calling for the public across the Caribbean to urge their governments to take, of course, urgent action on this dementia issue, of course, teaming up with the Alzheimer's associations within Barbados, Bonaire, of course, the British Virgin Islands, Dominica, Grenada, Puerto Rico, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin, St. Lucia, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago in order to launch a regional campaign, and that's titled, What's Your Plan? Of course, we here at 284 Media support the What's Your Plan movement, and joining me to discuss the movement is President of the BVI Alzheimer's Association, Mr. Ryan Gulick, and Chris Lynch, the Deputy CEO and Director of Policy, Communications, and Public Relations. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
It's that time for the NFL playoffs every weekend with CCT Live, showing every game on CBS, NBC, ABC, and ESPN, including the Super Bowl. Sign up for CCT Live today.
There's no game like this game!
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and ask about a 1-month free trial to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
It feels good.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for sticking with us. As I mentioned, joining me is Ryan Gulick and Chris. Both of you gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for your time in coming to us and speaking about this very important initiative, this movement, and of course, by extension, the urgent action that is essentially required to take dementia care to the next level. Ryan, I want to begin with you. Urgent care and the action that is essentially required now, not later. There's literally no time across the region. Dementia is simply a human rights movement. It's a human right for every individual who is ever going to have to perhaps deal with or suffer themselves individually with the disorder. While a few countries in the region, like the Dominican Republic and Cuba, have implemented national dementia plans, unfortunately, most are without adequate funding. The Caribbean ADI members participating in the What's Your Plan campaign are yet to have any fully funded, implemented national dementia plans in their countries. Of course, we look particularly at areas such as the British Virgin Islands and other countries. Ryan, why don't we have a national dementia plan here in the British Virgin Islands? What are your thoughts? What's taking so long?
Well, I mean, in speaking with the ministry, I mean, we've had conversations, so it's not as if there's nothing going on, and I want to reiterate that certainly from the forefront, because we have had discussions with the Ministry of Health, with Social Development, and I guess, for lack of a better term, one of the holdbacks is there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do on government side. There's a lot to do on policy, and things are constantly changing. Everybody would see in the media various changes with regards to drugs that are out there or coming on the market. So there has to be policies around that. There has to be concern around the awareness side, the social side. So government has its hands full on many areas, and obviously we're coming out of COVID. A lot of these discussions started in 2017. Obviously, we know in the British Virgin Islands what happened in 2017 with Hurricane Irma and Maria. So that put us back already a year, just when we were starting to have sort of protracted discussions with government. Obviously, COVID came. So there's a lot that we are dealing with. But as you would have said, Ron, it's imperative that we start to move. ADI has essentially set a goal for 2025 where they want governments to have policies put in place which deal with dementia, would deal with Alzheimer's, for both from a medical side and from a social side. So, I mean, I can speak a little bit as to some of the conversations that we've had with government. I mean, they're looking at it really from two aspects. Obviously, from the medical side, that goes to the Ministry of Health. And there has to be policies put in place on how you deal with persons living with Alzheimer's and dementia, what rights they have from that side. But then there's also the social side, which is really run through the Ministry of or the Department of Social Development. So there is two different levels of conversations that has to happen with this, and they obviously have to be speaking to each other as well. So it's imperative that we do act quickly, as you said in your opening. Cases are on the rise. We see increase in cases here in the BVI, and part of that I think has to do with more awareness. I mean, the association has done a tremendous job on raising awareness here in the territory and trying to remove the stigma surrounding it. And from that, you hear a lot more about cases here. But medically, as Chris will certainly allude to a little later on, is the cases worldwide are rising, and they are expected to rise significantly quickly. And Alzheimer's is probably the most expensive type of disease when it comes to treatment, because it takes,
why is that?
From essentially early diagnosis down to unfortunately death. That can take years, almost decades. And with that comes increase in medical costs and so on. And we know from a BVI standpoint, where you already have an NHI program which is underfunded or certainly lacking funding, an increase in Alzheimer's cases or dementia cases here in the BVI would have disastrous impacts here. So it's really imperative that we do start moving, we do start having policies, especially around the awareness side of it. I can't stress enough here in the BVI on how important it is that we really get this policy put in place.
Ryan, I have to ask you, as of course the British Virgin Islands is on this campaign as well, how important is it for the What's Your Plan movement and campaign? Why did you think, as president, it's imperative for the British Virgin Islands to lobby and really essentially join the region, by extension the world, in this cause?
Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, we understand here in the BVI that it's, as I said before, that the cases are on the rise here. I think it's been estimated that somewhere in the area of about 70% of our population is what we term is in the high risk areas of Alzheimer's dementia, areas such as obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, hypertension. Those areas put populations in high risk areas. So when we look at our own population, if we have 70% right now, we're in high risk areas of, at some point in time, having Alzheimer's and dementia potentially. Again, that's not saying that they will, but there's certainly there's a higher probability of it. So governments need to start looking at how to sensitize the public on reducing those risk areas, changing their lifestyles, and so on. So we have had levels of discussion with government on campaigns that look at the society side of it, look at also the corporate side, and something that I'm actually very passionate about here in the workplaces. I mean, we in the BVI are we live in a high stress environment. We have a lot of things that are impacting us here in the BVI. We have obviously had Hurricane Irma and Maria, and then COVID. But on top of that, we have the external pressures from financial services and a lot of things that we can't control. The areas of for COI and other political pressures. So there's invariably high stress on our society here in the BVI, and stress is again another one of those risk factors. So the government needs to start addressing that from a policy point of view, but also from a human rights point of view. You sort of touched upon that in your opening. I don't believe we have adequate laws here in the BVI which provide rights to persons living with Alzheimer's and dementia, and we need that to also improve. And that's part of government policy. It's not something that can come overnight, especially with the amount of things that the government is currently dealing with. So the quicker we can start acting, the more important it is, and that's why we support Alzheimer's Disease International on this campaign to start putting, I guess, to start putting paper to the words that we're hearing. I know from a government point of view, like I said earlier, I know that there are things happening in the background, and again, I want to stress that because I don't want persons to think that government is doing nothing. But I think we just need to see some accelerated growth, and hopefully that this campaign will help with that. I mean, since we put out the press release earlier this week, we have already had some discussions with government. So obviously, it has raised some eyebrows. It maybe is not the way that they would have wanted it to be put out in the mainstream media, but they understand that there is a need to move, and they're willing and able to do so. And then with Alzheimer's Disease International supporting us and providing resources for us, I think the government has a perfect opportunity right now to really make some positive headway quickly. I mean, we as an association have already set an internal deadline of either by the end of this year or certainly by halfway through next year to have this policy put in place. So we're looking at government we're looking at supporting government on this effort. Obviously, this is something that's led by government, but we are looking at supporting government, and ADI has already expressed their desire to support wherever government and the Virgin Islands Alzheimer's Association need to.
Most importantly, Ryan, and you mentioned, of course, about the sense of urgency. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but we're going to return with Chris Lynch, the Deputy CEO and Director of Policy, Communications and Publications. We're going to get an in-depth look at the medical aspect of course, the What's Your Plan movement and how we as a region could help to push the cause of dementia. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
Hun, it's asking for your password.
Huh?
You were logged out. I need the password.
BR.
What's the rest?
BRANDI, the number 4 EVER?
Who's Brandy?
We're like the password that isn't your ex-girlfriend's name. CG Insurance. Good like that.
I should have changed it.
You should have.
You're right.
Freeze. Choose your mix. Choose your flavor.
Yo, everything good, Dad?
Aye. This thing got me one way, Daddy.
What you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What you really? Hey, this ain't like you, you know.
Dad, this thing got me staying home, keeping out of trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
Shit. I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turn into 5. 5 months turn into, well, you know I watch him ball. I've been watching football, dog, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hooked, I tell you.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for your time. Now, as the world's population gets older, the prevalence of Alzheimer's disease and dementia is, of course, rapidly increasing and unfortunately threatening to overwhelm health services in many countries. In 2019, I just think it's important to note that dementia was ranked the third leading cause of death in the Americas, according to over 390,000 deaths. Now, Chris, I want to thank you so much for your time. We, of course, heard about the on-the-ground movement of what's your plan, but I want to speak specifically to you in regards to what are your thoughts on this movement, and how can we move forward? When we look at the medical aspects, of course, your expertise, what should we be paying most attention to as a region?
Ron, delighted to join you to talk about the What's Your Plan initiative that the ADI has undertaken. And as Ryan says, we're working with our associations, particularly in the region, but all over the world as well. Just to pick up on something Ryan commented on, we're really encouraged, that the government in BVI is really starting to engage now and to take these conversations forward. Underpinning this genuinely is the time issue. And Alzheimer's disease and dementia, the neurodegenerative conditions, and people will progress out of the stages where they can be diagnosed and treatment can be beneficial and care can be supportive. So time really is the most important factor with this. And if I can, let me just paint a kind of a global picture for you. You've already touched on the unfortunate mortality figures. So currently, globally, we're looking at dementia being the 7th leading cause of death. It's the 3rd in the Americas region, but in an increasing number of countries, it's actually becoming the leading cause of death. Now, from that, it's taken a long time working with organizations like PAHO and World Health Organization to really make dementia a global and a regional priority. And back in 2017, countries all over the world committed to developing national dementia plans in response to that global and regional priority. Now, the time frame for that was to have developed those plans by 2025. As Ryan says, no time is running out again there. We've got just over 2 years for governments to really have developed those robust plans, to have implemented them, to have funded them, and really start to roll them out. But it actually takes time to develop really good, robust plans. They have to be developed with a wide stakeholder group, including people with dementia, and their carers, because it is affecting people right across society. And I think some of the numbers, when you look at them, we're looking at, by 2050, almost 750,000 people across the Caribbean region that will be living with dementia. And Ron, you asked me about what does that mean for health and care systems? Well, it will put incredible pressure onto health and care systems. But perhaps if I can flip that and say, with good proactive approach to this and with good plans in place, it can actually be a cost saver for health and care systems as well. But to get to that point, the plan has to be developed and has to start to be rolled out. We're at an incredibly poignant moment as well, whereas up until the most recent of times, the majority of support has been non-pharmacological, non-drugs based. But just in the last few months, we are starting to see real breakthroughs in treatment development, drug-based development. And the next 2 or 3 years, there should really be a shift and a change in treatments that can alter the course and slow down the degeneration of all different types of dementia. The important part about that is health and care systems really need to be ready. And then running in parallel with that, the care system really needs to be robust as well. And I've mentioned, just how broadly this affects people, not just the person with a diagnosis, but very importantly, their primary carers, which is often a member of the family, and that care is often delivered informally in an unpaid way. But also it affects the wider family, community as a whole. And that often relates to, stress for carers having to come out of the workforce to interrupt their own income, to interrupt their education, because carers are often in the younger generation as well. So putting in place a good, robust plan will actually tackle all of the areas from diagnosis through treatment, through care and support, and importantly, areas like risk reduction and research as well. Hopefully that paints a kind of a good global and regional picture of why this is so timely.
Thank you so much, Chris, for putting that into perspective. And of course, and thank you for also highlighting some of the very alarming and unfortunate statistics. Now, viewers, research has, of course, found that the greatest risk factors for dementia in the Caribbean specifically include, like Ryan might have mentioned earlier, is cardiovascular health, diabetes, family history, older age, education, and further, women with lower levels of education in rural areas are overrepresented in dementia statistics in the Caribbean. Now, it is important, and I want to thank you both gentlemen for coming and speaking on this conversation. It's a conversation that we should have more of as it pertains to our awareness and really pushing this movement forward. But as it pertains to risk reduction, it should be designed with a life course approach in mind, of course, targeting both older and younger populations with a focus on the modifiable 12 risk factors estimated to contribute to 40% of the cases in those living with dementia. And of course, Ryan, you would understand this because something as simple as wearing a helmet for a number of our scooter riders here in the Virgin Islands, those are some contributing factors to dementia, accident awareness, and these are the aspects that we don't pay attention to. I thank you gentlemen so much for coming and speaking on this behalf. Of course, we're going to continue this conversation here at 284 Media. This is a movement. Of course, What's Your Plan movement is a movement that we support, and we'll be continuing the conversation. Before we go, though, I want to give you both an opportunity, beginning with Ryan, to give persons information, contact information, social media information briefly on how they could contact the BVI Alzheimer's Association if they have questions, concerns, living or caring with someone with dementia or Alzheimer's. Ryan, I'll begin with you.
Thanks, Ron, and thanks again to 284 Media and CCT for their continued support of Alzheimer's and dementia awareness. I mean, you guys have always been there in the front lines trying to help us raise the awareness, and it's certainly appreciated. The easiest way to get in touch with us is actually through our Facebook page. It's essentially through Facebook, ALZ. AWARE, All's Aware. So if you do that search, or even just VI Alzheimer's Association in the search, you'll come to our Facebook page. There's a large amount of information that we have there with regards to facts about Alzheimer's, dealing with Alzheimer's. Is things that we're doing within the community as well when we have events. I mean, our big months are June and September. June being Brain Health Month, September being World Alzheimer's Month. So we always put our information up there for what we're doing. But there is also some numbers to contact if you're looking for support groups and so on, because we do run some support groups for family members or persons living with Alzheimer's as well. So there's a lot of things that we do in the community. So find us on Facebook and also on Instagram, same Instagram handle at ALZAWARE. And continue to follow us because we put posts up numerous times a day. We're very active on social media and things like that. So keep an eye out for it, and certainly we'll keep updating the general public as to how our discussions are going with government on developing this policy.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And Chris, how can persons who are watching and want to support the What's Your Plan movement, how can they do that?
Thanks, Ron. And as Ryan was saying, probably the ADI website is a super resource for this. alzint.org, alzint.org. We have some really, really good examples and case studies from all over the world, which we really encourage people to look at and to share. That includes governments as well. In terms of national plan development, we've got examples from all over the world which can act as really good templates that can be adapted, regionally and culturally as well. Just to finish, something that Ryan has really emphasized is that awareness raising and challenging the stigma around dementia continues to be one of our biggest challenges. And it's really important that we get over this barrier, we normalize the language. We often use areas like cancer as an example. 10, 15 years ago, people also had barriers and stigma around cancer. They didn't want to say the name. They would call it the big C. They wouldn't talk about it. But jump forward 10 or 15 years, and that has been normalized. People are much more willing to have conversations about it, to express their concerns and their worries. We need to get into that space for dementia as well, to stop people delaying coming forward. And the Awareness Month in September and World Alzheimer's Day itself on the 21st of September is such a primary opportunity to do that. So we would heartily encourage everybody to get involved in that month itself. Thank you.
Beautiful. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I want to thank you for your presence, of course, and here at 284 Media. It's the What's Your Plan Movement 2023, bringing, of course, into perspective the heart of the matter, which is dementia, and how we as a region connecting through conversations could essentially help save lives with early detection and, of course, the diagnosis and support and the reducement of stigma. For 284 Media, I'm Ron Grant. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Bye-bye.
That's out. That's 6. That's out.
With worldwide medical coverage and affordable premiums, we're like a home match that isn't played at your actual home. CG Insurance. Good like that.
My turn. Oh, come on, guys.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Yo, everything good, Dad?
Aye. This thing got me one way, Daddy.
What do you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What do you really? Hey, this ain't like you know.
Dad, this thing got me staying home, keeping out of trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
She? I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turn into 5. 5 months turn into, well, you know I huff. I watching ball. I even watching football. Dad, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hook, I tell you.
Welcome to the 103rd season of the NFL.
It's that time for the NFL playoffs every weekend with CCT Live, showing every game on CBS, NBC, ABC, and ESPN, including the Super Bowl. Sign up for CCT Live today.
There's no game like this game.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and ask about a 1-month free trial to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
It feels good.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.